All right, let's move on to the beatdown Oklahoma took.
We weren't going to be defined going into this game. Had we won, we would have just been 4-0 and 1-0 in the conference. And the same thing, we're not going to be defined by this loss moving forward. We will, however, be defined by how we respond moving forward. And I still believe with everything I got in this team and what's still sitting in front of us.
All right, so there's Brent Venables talking after the game, and he's right. They're not going to be defined by this loss, and quite frankly, you talk about a bad matchup. I mean, Kansas State just has OU's number. They just do. A couple of years ago in the COVID year, Kansas State lost to, who was it, Arkansas State. Next week, rolled into Norman, beat them. This year, last week, they lose to, I think it was Tulane, if I'm not mistaken. Roll into Oklahoma, beat them. See, I'm a big believer in the following truth. You're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you think you are. And the last 2 weeks epitomize that for Oklahoma. So we do their game, Gus, Ginny, and I, against Nebraska. Nebraska played so bad, Gus got sick and had to leave for the second half. Maybe that's just the joke that I'm going to keep telling. And in hindsight, the air was completely let out of that program that week. They fired their coach. Their players still really loved that coach, and they played awful. I mean, after the first few series, Nebraska had nothing, very little effort. They got absolutely dump trucked by Oklahoma, and there were a lot of people, myself included, by the way, that were like, hey man, Oklahoma's really good. Based on what I just saw from their defense, that looks like a different defense. If their offense, because they had been holding back in some of those preseason games, or non-conference games, I guess I should say, offensively. And then I thought to myself, boy, if they're going to be that explosive, if Gabriel is going to play that well, if they're going to be that sound, then that's a really good team. And guess what? They probably are still a really good team, because they're probably not as bad as the team that rolled out there and wasn't prepared, didn't play well, had 11 penalties, and had their quarterback play his worst game of the year. So am I really concerned for Oklahoma? In a couple of ways, yes, but I'll get to that in a moment. In a couple of ways, no. Like, we've seen this before, and they've bounced back, and they've still been able to win the Big 12 championship, even with a loss to Kansas State, at home. I do think that they'll play much better from a discipline standpoint. I don't think that they're going to have 11 penalties every week, and certainly not some of those false starts. Do I think Dillon Gabriel is going to play better than that? Yes. He missed far too many open wide receivers in critical moments that would have moved the chains and really changed the entire scope of that game. So, listen, you're never as good as you are, and you're never as bad as you are. That was a team that read their press clippings coming out of the Nebraska game, and then they got housed by Kansas State. But what are the areas of concern that we should have if we are Oklahoma fans moving forward? There are a couple, and here they are. When that happens to you, and it's clear that you're struggling with something very specific, which was the interior run game and quarterback run game from Kansas State, that's a blueprint. And now it's on film. And now everybody within your conference is going to be testing that area to see if you fixed it. Every good coach in the Big 12 is now, in the first quarter of their matchup against OU, going to try some of those exact same things that Kansas State was using to see if Oklahoma fixed it. And the question remains, will they have fixed it? So that's number one. It's on tape. Whatever you put out there, that's on tape. That's a blueprint. And then the second part of why I'm a little bit concerned for Oklahoma, that schedule all of a sudden looks brutal. You look at the Big 12 right now, and there's maybe not an easy game out there. All right, I don't think TCU is going to be an easy game for Oklahoma. Obviously, Red River is not going to be an easy game. We saw what Texas was capable of. Texas Tech at home is a tough one. Iowa State at home, that's a tough one. By the way, meaning like on the road. So you got to go to Texas Tech. You got to go to Iowa State. You still got to play Kansas. That used to be an absolute joke and a week off. Now it's the team that's tied with Ohio State with the most touchdowns in college football. I mean, like, you tell me where the break is in that schedule. I don't think that there is one. All of a sudden, the Big 12 is turning into like the deepest conference in the country. Now, they might not be great at the top, and I don't think that they have a team that's going to the playoff. I don't think that they have a team that can compete for a national championship, but man, like, you can get beat by anybody in that conference on any given day. I didn't even mention Baylor. They're the defending champ. I didn't even mention Oklahoma State. They might be the best one of the bunch. So you get what I'm saying here. That schedule looks really daunting for a team that rolled out there and wasn't prepared and didn't play well in the loss to Kansas State. So now you have to start looking at it as like, wow, is 3 total losses out of the realm of possibility? No, it's not out of the realm of possibility. That's a difficult schedule, a really difficult schedule. And we'll see how it, is handled by them moving forward. Quick note on that, by the way, this is exactly why we need the expanded playoff. The Big 12 this year is the exact reason why we need the expanded playoff. Why? Because we need a playoff that will still reward a team to get through a very difficult conference. I firmly believe that. You can call it, ribbons for everybody. I don't see it that way. I see it this way. The champion of the Big 12 this year likely has 2 losses, maybe 3. And I'm excited for the day that in an expanded playoff, they would still have a defined path to the postseason. And I think that'll be good for the sport.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.